Well, go ahead and get out your device and hashtag check-in for charity on Facebook. Remember to include, you can include your hashtag Sunday selfie today. You can take a selfie in church right now if you want to, just for kicks and giggles for our new series. For every public Facebook check-in, remember we are donating $1 to Anchor Point Pregnancy Center located in League City. So information about that great ministry and organization is available on our website, also on your Bible app. So then get out your Bible or your Bible app if you have one of those with you today, so that you can follow along with today's message under the events section of the app. If you look there with us, we're in week 2 of this 5-week message series that we're calling Hashtag Struggles. Hashtag Struggles. And I'm really excited about this series because I believe that it really addresses the real struggles that we experience now in our society because of social media. Now, of course, the series is not about how social media is all bad and social media is from the devil and you shouldn't use it or anything like that. No, that's not what we're talking about. It is an amazing technology and this incredible platform that we have, and it gives us a revolutionized way of communicating with each other and engaging in other people's lives. And so it has really changed the way we live. It's just that now we have to figure out how to adapt to these changes that it's actually making in our society. So those new changes have also created for us, in addition to all these amazing, wonderful gifts, they've also created for us some struggles, some problems. And so we have to figure out how to address those problems. Like last week when we talked about discontentment. We talked about discontentment last week and how social media has changed how we have satisfaction in life. We are less satisfied with our life now. We're much less content than we used to be. In the past, we have greater temptation than ever before, greater envy of people's finances, of their circumstances, of their relationships. All of our friends and followers that we see, we compare our lives to them, and comparison leads to greater discontentment for us. Last week, we also talked about the secret, though, to finding contentment amidst that discontentment and envy. So we talked about the secret to finding satisfaction in life. And the secret is found in the Bible. The Bible's full of good stuff like that. Paul gives us the secret when he's writing to the Philippian church in Philippians chapter 4, starting in verse 11. He says this, he says, "For I have learned how to be content with whatever I have. I know how to live on almost nothing or with everything. I have learned the secret of living in every situation, whether it is with a full stomach or empty, with plenty or little." And what's the secret? Paul says in verse 13, he says, "For I can do everything through Christ who gives me strength." The secret to contentment is the pursuit of Christ. It's not the pursuit of stuff, it's the pursuit of a Savior that leads to satisfaction. And sometimes this new technology distracts us from the meaningful pursuits that we should really be pursuing in life, that really produce ultimate satisfaction within us. So last week's hashtag struggle was contentment. This week's struggle is intimacy. You know, one of the things that social media has done really well for us is actually help us to connect and to reconnect with friends. Right? So we can reconnect with friends from high school and friends from college, and we can reconnect with people that family members that live far away from us, move far away. We can connect also with new friends through social media, like Facebook and Instagram are a primary way now that we actually get to know one another and become deeper friends. So, you know, you might meet somebody first at the baseball game, your kid's baseball game, or you meet them in the grocery store, you meet them at church, whatever, and then you friend them on Facebook, and then you kind of look through their profile and you get to know them a little bit more. You start to look at photos of their family and follow them on social media, and you become deeper friends with them. So now we can friend people because of social media. You like that word friend, right? Friend being used as a verb like that. I mean, that's never been a verb before until it was just a handful of years ago. And befriended was a word. We could befriend somebody. But now we have the word, we can friend somebody. So technology is even changing our language. The term friend is evolving. It's not just a noun anymore now. It's also this verb. You can friend someone. You can unfriend someone. That's a word too. You can unfriend them. So you can completely change your relationship on your terms. You know, you don't have to be friends with somebody anymore if you don't want to. You can completely avoid that awkward conversation where you sort of dump your friend. But all you have to do to unfriend somebody now is just push a button. You just unfriend. And you're no longer friends without all the weirdness, without all the messiness that would come from a conversation like that. Or you can just decide to unfollow somebody and you can still remain friends on social media, just not follow them, so you can have this kind of illusion of friendship without all the messiness of actually having to, interact with each other and stuff. It's so much cleaner that way, isn't it? And so social media is even changing what the noun friend means, too, because today the average American has 328 Facebook friends, which really sounds really low to me. I don't know about you. It sounds really low to me because I look at my friends, I've got 810. I'm not that popular of a guy. I look at my wife's Facebook page, and she's got over 1,200 Facebook friends. She's always been more popular in their life than me anyway. But we've got hundreds and even thousands of Facebook friends, social media friends, followers, whatever. We've got hundreds and even thousands of these, but in reality, the average American has only 2 close friends, 2 intimate friendships. Technology is changing our relationships, even the way we talk about it. So we have lots of online interaction, but we have very little actual intimacy. Social media gives us this illusion of friendship without the messiness of intimacy. So in a way, we feel close to people because of social media. We feel like we're friends. It says that we're friends. On our page, it says that. If we're following that celebrity or that acquaintance that we barely know, we never really met, we feel close to the people that we're following without any real intimacy of an actual relationship with them. So because we have lots of online interaction and few intimate friendships, sometimes we feel more connected, but we also feel more alone. This desire within every one of us, this God-given desire to really know other people and to really be known by other people, this desire that we have for intimacy, for intimate friendships, we're trying to fill this desire with hundreds of surface-level friends, and we count our intimacy by the number of likes we have on our posts and our pictures. We're trying to fill this void of intimacy with immediate affirmation. We post a selfie and immediately, minutes later, we want to check to see how many people have already liked it, right? So, because of social media, we have this new struggle to be a real friend. We struggle to experience real intimacy. Even saying the word intimacy kind of weirds some of you out a little bit, doesn't it? And to talk about intimacy in church, that kind of weirds you out because our society is changing. We're less and less comfortable with the idea of intimacy, with the idea of really being known. So how do we fight against that struggle to experience real intimate friendship? Well, today I'm going to give you 2 principles for being a real friend and for experiencing real intimacy. The first one is pretty simple. The first principle is this. Number 1 is be present. Be present. If you want to grow in intimacy, if you want to grow in real friendship, you have to be physically present. Physical proximity. Be present with one another. There is power just in being present together. So the writer of the book of Hebrews in the Bible writes in chapter 10, starting verse 24, he says, "Let us think of ways to motivate one another to acts of love and good works, and let us not neglect our meeting together as some people do, but encourage one another, especially now that the day of his return is drawing near." So in a day of text and Twitter, it is so easy to neglect our meeting together. Even here, we broadcast these worship services on Periscope. That's what we're doing over here. We're broadcasting it on Periscope. But that's not so that we can neglect our meeting together. So you can watch these worship services anywhere you are. But it's not so that we can neglect our meeting together. It's so that you can connect when you can't come, when you're on vacation, when you're sick and in bed, or whatever reason you have for not being able to get here. You can still connect with us. It's not so that we can neglect our meeting together. And now it's just really so easy to avoid any kind of human interaction altogether. We can order anything online that we want to. We don't even have to make a phone call if we don't want to. Our first instinct is always to text, isn't it? We kind of get out our device and we think, can this communication be sent by text? Or do I have to call? Right? We always think text first. And how many times have you been in the middle of like an 18-page text and you're just texting or talking text or whatever, and you finally get about 3/4 way through and you're thinking, this is so stupid, why don't I just call? I could have been done with this whole thing in half the time that it takes to text. But that's just not the way our brain works anymore because we're changing. Our first instinct is to neglect meeting together. Our first instinct is to take a less intimate approach. So practice the ministry of presence. Texts aren't bad. Sometimes a phone call is better. Phone calls aren't bad. Sometimes those suffice, but sometimes a face-to-face is better. Practice presence. Pastor Craig Rochelle, I love to listen to, he says, love people face-to-face, not just thumbs-to-thumbs. Love people face to face, not just thumbs to thumbs. Some friendship can only be experienced face to face. In a physical presence of one another. Jesus calls us to a deeper kind of love for one another than just being texting buddies. Jesus, his disciples weren't just on a group text message thread together. They actually lived life together. I mean, that's pretty good. You should probably text that to your texting buddy group. That Jesus his disciples weren't just on a group text message thread. Jesus says in John chapter 13, starting verse 34, we read this just a second ago from the Message version. He says, "So now I am giving you a new commandment. Love each other, just as I have loved you." You should love each other. Your love for one another will prove to the world that you are my disciples. So Jesus said, love each other. Just as I have loved you, we should love each other. Now, how did Jesus love his disciples? Right? Obviously, Jesus loved his disciples with heart emojis and encouraging texts. Right? Yeah. So it was more than that. Now, texts are fine to communicate with, but there's so much more to love and to intimate friendship than just a text. Text can be supplemental, but presence, being present in each other's lives, that communicates to one another a deeper kind of love, a more intimate kind of love. Presence is fundamental to intimacy and it's fundamental to real, true friendship. So it's kind of like prayer. If we hear that someone is going through something difficult, there are ways that there are kind of steps that we can take to try to be a good friend to them. We can text or comment and say, "I'm praying for you." And that's really good. It's nice to hear somebody say to you, "I'm on your side. I'm with you in this time of struggle." That's great. Or you can kind of take it a step further and then just telling someone that you're going to pray for them. And then you can actually pray for them. Because how many times have this happened to you, this happened to me before? You tell someone you're going to pray for them, but then life happens and you forget. And you don't actually pray for them. All you've done is just tell them that you're going to pray for them. Now, I used to work with this guy named Jeff, and Jeff did this really interesting thing that I think is really just perfect in our day and age of technology. He would often email his prayers to people. And so if he was going to pray for me, he would write out his prayer in an email, and he would for me, but he would address it to God, and he's not praying to me, he was just praying for me, but he would write out his prayer in an email, and then he would send that email to me so that I could read what he was praying. So it was kind of like, through media, through the internet, through technology, we were praying together, even though we were not actually in the same room saying the same words together. Or we can take that one step further and then praying just for somebody or praying for somebody by technology. We can physically pray with them. We can say, "May I pray for you?" And then we actually pray for them in their presence. Because praying with them, being on their side is good, and praying for them, recruiting God's help for them is good too. Praying with them over social media is good. But then physically praying with somebody, being in their presence, that's a whole other level of intimacy and friendship. Your true friends won't just pray for you, they will actually come and gather together with you and pray with you. And you'll do the same for them. But this can be a terrifying idea for us, I think, to this idea of intimacy in prayer. Prayer is so nerve-wracking to us, and to think about doing that in the presence of somebody else, we really struggle with intimacy. That can be a real struggle for us because it's just so intimate. But if you want a more intimate relationship with somebody, then just pray with them. If you want a more intimate relationship with your spouse, then don't just pray for your spouse, pray with your spouse. It's a real act of real friendship and intimacy. Be present with one another. When someone is going through a difficult time, the most loving gift that you can give is just the gift of presence. Your presence. In moments of grief or in joy, you just gather together and be present with one another, and that's a real gift of friendship to them. Gather for prayer, gather just to talk, gather around food. When you don't know what to do or what to say, just bring food and eat together. And why do we bring food to people that are struggling? Why do we bring food to the people that have just had a baby or the people that just moved into the neighborhood? Food is just an excuse to be together in friendship with one another. We eat with people that we like, and it's just a sign of our love and appreciation for them. I'll never forget another coworker of mine I had a while back. Her name was Jane Williams. And Jane Williams brought Nikki and me food when we first got married. We just moved into our new apartment together. And I was still relatively new to this church staff. Excuse me. And I had been working in this particular church for about 6 months, so I was still kind of getting to know everybody on the church staff. And I remember Nikki and I had just come back from our honeymoon. I had gone back to work. We were at the staff meetings together, and the senior pastor announced to everybody, "Congratulations, Andrew," and he just got married to Nikki, and we're so happy for them. Everybody kind of applauded, and they were so nice and gracious and sort of welcoming back and everything. But then Jane was sitting next to me, and she leaned over to me, and she kind of whispered to me, she said, "Has anybody brought you any food yet?" And I said, just got caught off guard. No, nobody's brought food yet. In my head, I thought, are we supposed to bring me food? Is that like a thing? But that sounded really delightful if somebody would actually bring us food. And she said, okay, well, I'm going to do that, And so Jane and her husband, an older couple, they hand-delivered this young newlywed couple that we were, a simple home-cooked country supper to our apartment door for us. And just that act, I felt instantly closer to Jane. I felt like she was a true friend. So getting to know all these people, but she was the one that came and brought food. And all of a sudden I felt like this is a true friend. And she became a very good friend at that church. When now, if we've been newly married, we just post that on Facebook. We change our marital status on Facebook. And no amount of congratulatory comments or thumbs up emojis or anything like that are going to take the place of a home-cooked meal delivered to somebody to express your friendship to them and your congratulations. So be present. Practice presence. The ministry of presence is called incarnational ministry. Incarnational ministry. Now, what in the world does incarnation mean? Incarnation is a churchy word. You don't get bonus points in heaven for knowing it, but I'm going to tell you what it means anyway. The incarnation means in flesh. Like, you can break that word down. Incarnation, the word in means in, and carnational, it's like the word carne, meaning like carne asada, carnivore, flesh. Okay? So it's in flesh. Incarnation means in flesh. So incarnational ministry means ministry that's in flesh and in blood. It means you're present with one another. It means you're here with them. This is the same word that we use to describe Jesus coming from heaven to earth. We call that the incarnation. You might have heard churches or schools called the incarnate word, right? What does that mean? That means Jesus. That means the Word made flesh. So Jesus' ministry was incarnational. He came to earth in flesh and in blood, God in the flesh. And at Christmas time, we celebrate that, right? We celebrate Emmanuel. God is with us. He's with us. The presence of God is with us in flesh and in blood. We celebrate Emmanuel. So this incarnate God that we worship, the incarnate God understands the power of intimacy and the power of presence, of being present with the people that he loves. And so Jesus understood the desire that we have to be known. Jesus understood the desire that we have to know God. And so he came to the earth to be present with us. Jesus said, so I'm giving you a new commandment. Love each other just as I have loved you. You should love each other. How do we love each other like Jesus loved us? Be present with one another. Be present. And then when you're present, actually be present, which leads us to number 2, being engaged. Be engaged. How many times have you been to a party now, or maybe you just gather together with some friends and everyone's kind of sitting around on the couch and no one's talking to each other because everyone's looking on their phones? Have you experienced that before? We're in the physical presence of real friends and we're scrolling through our social media friends at the same time. This is a new problem for us in our culture. It's less than a decade old. 8 years ago, think about that, 8 years ago, no one would have ever done that. And now it's become the norm for us, and honestly, it's really, really weird for us to sit around together and just look at social media instead of talking to each other. It's really weird. I mean, just imagine if you invited me over to your home to a party, and for a while we're talking and having a good time, and then there's a lull in the conversation, so I reach into my pocket and I pull out the newspaper, and I just start reading it in your house. At the party, and my wife, she gets bored because there's a conversation that isn't happening, and so she gets out, she pulls out of her purse one of these giant wedding photo albums, and just starts looking through some random stranger's wedding photos right there in the middle of your party. And then some other guest, he gets really bored at your party and disconnects. And so what he does is goes and finds your home computer and gets on Google and just starts surfing the web on your computer. That would be so weird. And yet that's the norm for us now, all the time. That would have never happened as little as 8 years ago if you do that. If you behave that way at a party, I mean, you'd never be invited back. They would have said, what is up with that guy who brought the newspaper to our party? We are never inviting that guy back, ever. We do it all the time now. We bring newspapers, magazines, books, Google, we bring everything, photo albums with us everywhere we go, including parties. And in the slightest lull of conversation, we disengage, we get out our phone, and we start going like this. We don't know how to engage with people anymore, really. We don't know how to continue meaningful times of conversation with one another and times of fellowship with one another without our device in our hands. It's just so easy to disengage. So you see, ironically, our obsession with social media actually reveals that we want meaningful relationships. That's why we use it, because we want meaningful relationships. But our obsession with social media causes us to disengage from meaningful relationships. So John writes to us in 1 John chapter 3, verse 18. He says, "Dear children, let us not merely say that we love each other. Let us show the truth by our actions." It's this ironic phenomenon. Our actions, of using social media, our actions say that we love each other and we want meaningful relationships with one another. But then our actions, using social media, they prevent us from having the very sorts of real relationships that we desire. So it's like even when we are really present with friends, we are completely disengaged with them. And we are glued to our devices because we have something called FOMO. You know about FOMO, right? Fear of missing out. Fear of missing out. So you're constantly scrolling through your feed, fearful that you might be missing out on something else that's happening somewhere else. Someone else, you might be at a party, but someone else is at a better party. You might be with friends, but somebody else is with a celebrity, and you want to know about it. So our FOMO causes us to keep our eyes glued to our phones, but since our eyes are glued to our phones, we miss out on what's happening right in front of our faces. We should, instead of fearing missing out, we should fear that our devices are actually causing us to miss out. Because that's what's actually happening. And of course, it's not just social media. For some people, they don't have a problem with social media. They barely use social media. But some people have problems with just regular media. It's 500 TV channels in your pocket. You know, it's the whole library of movies available to stream anytime you want to. It's every game that you can watch of every sport, of every team, available 24/7, and then you can watch SportsCenter as many times as you want to, over and over and over, recapping every game too. I mean, with my iPad, I can go from room to room and never put the TV down. The TV goes with me. Hulu goes with me everywhere I go. And, you know, it's really nice because I can take Hulu with me and I can avoid completely having to deal with my pesky children. Right? It's so easy now to disengage from our relationships, no matter where we are. Look, like I said when we started this, there's no problem with social media. It's not that it's wrong. There's nothing wrong with scrolling and wasting a little bit of time on social media. That's fine. But there might be wrong times to do that. A good time and good, you know, when you are actually alone. When you're waiting in a waiting room, when you're on break at work, or, you know, when you're sitting on your favorite white throne at home. Sometimes like that, it's good opportunities when no one else is around to look at that stuff. But when you're in the presence of real people, when you're at a party, when you're with your family, when you're with a friend, engage with them. Put the phone away and actually interact with people. I mean, that's where intimate friendship and intimate relationships happen. Now, intimate friendships, intimate relationships, real, true friendships, they're not always as entertaining as the latest cat video on YouTube. They might not be. There might be lulls in the conversation. There might just have to be mundane conversations sometimes. But when you're able to be present and to be engaged with someone, even in the mundane things of life, that's when you know you've got real, true friendship. Learn to appreciate that the life that God has given you, no matter what is going on, or no matter what is not going on in your life. Don't try to live vicariously through other people even their lives are not a constant highlight reel. Even they have times of dull conversation and mundane things of life. Even if you're just enjoying a quiet evening at home by yourself or with your family, why would you want to escape that to go somewhere else? Just sit and appreciate the gift that you have of time with your family, time at home. Just appreciate the life you've been given. Just breathe a little bit. Be engaged. Now, for some of you, practicing being engaged will take actual, literal, written rules of when you should use your devices and things like that. You should kind of set some family rules or something. Maybe you come up with things like, no devices at the table, no TV on while we're eating dinner, no multiple devices on at the same time. Sometimes we're guilty of that. Like you scroll through Instagram while there's a commercial break on the iPad or something like that. Maybe you should come up with some sort of rules that are going to help you to just be a little bit more engaged with the people that you're around. You might set an early bedtime for your phone. So you kind of put it up on the charge, and it goes to bed at 8 o'clock or whatever, and then you spend the rest of your time engaging with your family. I don't know. You don't have to use these rules. You can come up with your own rules. But for some of you, you might just need to be more conscious about what you're doing. You just need to be more conscious about not using your phone when your kids are talking to you. Because, you don't want your kids to remember the top of your head more than they remember the look in your eyes, right? And so, for some of you, just need to be more conscious about that. Again, this is not that this stuff is bad or evil or wrong. It's nothing like that. It's just, you have to decide what you really want in life. Do you really want to find your most meaningful relationships on a screen? Or do you want to be more intimately involved in your family and friends' lives? Are you trying to fill this void that you might feel for more meaningful friendships, more meaningful relationships? Are you trying to fill it with social media, with hundreds of surface-level friendships? Because if you're trying to do that, you're never going to actually find intimacy or real friendship that way. Be engaged. Be present. Rediscover what true friendship and true intimacy is all about. This real friendship, this real intimacy that God actually designed you for. That life is better when we experience it. And now we're about to gather together around a table for communion, for the Lord's Supper. It's a meal of sorts, right? Just a piece of bread dipped in juice. But as we do that, I just invite you to be present and to be engaged as we do that. So you can put down your devices. We can be engaged with one another and with God. Let's remember what the Lord's Supper is all about. The Lord's Supper is the time that we remember in a physical way the physical presence of Jesus. The broken bread and juice remind us of the incarnational ministry of Jesus, that God came to the earth in flesh and in blood in Jesus Christ, God made flesh. And he came here to be with us. To be with us. Like not just the whole world, but to be with you. God came to the earth to be with you. God didn't phone in his order of salvation for the world. He actually came here in person. We believe that he's present here today. We believe that he desires an intimate relationship with you, one that is growing closer to him each and every day, each and every week. So let's take a moment and thank God for this meal, for this time we get to spend with him, for this time we get to spend gathered together as a body, as a church. Let's pray. Loving God, thank you so much for this gift of this meal, reminding us of your physical presence here with us. Thank you so much that you died on the cross for us. Thank you so much that you love us as you do. God, draw us into a deeper relationship with you today. Holy Spirit, we ask that you would come and fill this place. Fill this bread and juice and make it be for us like your body and your blood. So that as we eat it, we would be filled with your Spirit. That we would experience a deeper sense of your love for us. A closeness of you, God, to us. So Holy Spirit, come. In Jesus' name, amen.